Then from that, there's this period of like 10 days because the resolution says, all right, we're taking 100,000, we're going to split it with these different cities, and then we're going to put together the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan. But they only had like 12 days to do it.
Yeah, they're not really.
And so the question is, the investigative hypothesis then is, Center for Tech and Civic Life gave 100,000 to Racine through this resolution to distribute to everyone else to put together a Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan in 10 days. And then eventually the conditional grants were presented and approved by the Common Councils. But who drafted the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan? Was it a staff member at Racine? It's pretty clear it wasn't a staff member at Madison, Kenosha, Milwaukee, or Green Bay. So it's either Racine did it or the Center for Tech and Civic Life did it. If the Center for Tech and Civic Life did it, then you've really got a problem, because the Center for Tech and Civic Life is doing the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan and paying $100,000 to make it look like they didn't. I mean, what's that all about?
Good morning, friends. And we know there's millions of you out there, right, Jim?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. George, millions of people are now watching this show.
Where are we at here, Jim?
No, there's no way of knowing. It's just, I just thought I'd throw that out there because, well, it's Memorial Day.
Right.
Today, as this show comes out to be released to the public, is Memorial Day, and to my left we have a veteran, Mr. George Myers.
This day is not for me, though, because I'm still alive.
Oh, by the way, I'm Dr. Jorgen.
Yeah.
So, today, besides being Memorial Day, and we hope you all have a good Memorial Day, and that you give some thought to what we're doing here on Memorial Day, what we're remembering. There's actually a whole lot of things that we remember. Did you ever see that?
One of the earliest Memorial Day ceremonies was held by freed African Americans.
Yeah.
How about that?
So, but we're gonna off on a different subject. That's just a little bit of opening dialogue, and what we've got here is we've got a video that we're going to watch, and it has to do with the election that took place back in November, and the relationship between Racine, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Green Bay, and Madison, 5 Wisconsin cities that were brought together for suspicious reasons. Suspicious is the best word I can come up with. And it turns out that kind of the driving force behind that conglomeration of 5 cities was our own esteemed mayor, Mr. Corey Mason. Now, you were up in Madison last week, or earlier this week.
Right.
But you spoke with a gentleman up there who was part of a presentation by the Amistad
Project, right. And they actually have filed suit in 5 of the cities in Wisconsin that were accepted to Zuckerberg money, Facebook money. Now, they're going to argue that, oh, no, all these cities accepted the money. But those were the 5 that were really the cornerstone of the amounts of money that were pumped into Wisconsin. And this was the last city that they were filing the suit in, which was Madison. I went up, George actually went up also, and I got an actual interview with Eric Cardell, and we're going to do it tonight on the show. But we specifically went after and asked him about Racine. very interesting information that he brought forth on Racine, and we're going to share it with you here, but we're going to go through the video, and we'll he starts out with his presentation, and then we kind of go into the actual interview, one-on-one there, and there's some more information there. So, you guys ready?
Ready.
Yeah, interesting information in this video.
The voters can step up and say, you violated the election law. So here we are in Madison, and before we were in Kenosha, Racine, Milwaukee, and Green Bay. This is the 5th of 5 administrative complaints, and here are the violations of law. This is what you need to know. You need to know, 1, under state law, it's the election officials, the clerk who has the state authority, and then the state legislature enacts the state law that the clerk is supposed to follow and the Wisconsin Election Commission is supposed to follow. And then the U.S. Constitution Articles 1 and 2 put the state legislature in charge of elections. So when the election officials and the Wisconsin Election Commission are following state law, then they're following the U.S. Constitution because the state legislature is in charge. When the Zuckerberg money came in, they were working with 5 mayors. They dubbed themselves the Wisconsin Five. They had their own letterhead with 5 seals. I mean, can you imagine that? It's like a group of nation states. The state of Wisconsin only has 1 seal. The Wisconsin Five had 5 seals, 5 times more important, at least in their view. They also talked about putting out t-shirts, the Wisconsin 5 t-shirts. It was all about Wisconsin election administration, right? When 5 mayors are convening to develop a plan for election administration, privately funded by CTCL under a Racine resolution, you have the mayors of Milwaukee, the mayor of Madison, the mayor of Green Bay, and Kenosha operating under a Racine resolution. That's strange, right?
Yeah. Now, the simplicity of it, he comes right at the beginning and explains it. You have the Constitution, and the Constitution says that state legislatures are in charge of the elections, and this is for president, charge of elections, and they set up the laws that the clerk is supposed to institute.
Right.
Real simple. Boom, boom, boom. Constitution, legislature, county clerk. All right? And these 5 mayors have come in and said, no, wait a second. We're going to come in there, and we're the ones that are going to run it.
And I'm wondering who the heck was behind that, because I don't believe that Corey Mason, who actually ended up being the kingpin of these 5, I don't believe he came up with this game plan. And there's like a lot of money that came from Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, $100,000 from the Center for Tech and Civic Life, $100,000.
Right. And that was to set up, and then when that money was given to Racine, then $10,000 was given to the other 4 cities to set up this safe voting plan, which we can get into a little bit deeper when we talk about the safe voting plan. But the interesting thing he said there, and we're going to probably hit on this a couple times, is the resolution that was set up in Racine by the Racine Common Council on June 2nd, 2020. Racine voted, the aldermen voted on a resolution to accept the $100,000 from the CTCL. And then that was supposed to be distributed. I don't believe, and neither does he, when we talk about it a little deeper, that the Common Council even knew what the hell they were doing.
Who wrote the resolution? Where did that come from?
Well, I want to get into that a little bit.
And you talk about not knowing what they're doing. You have that 3-step procedure, Constitution, state legislature, clerk. Very simple thing. They didn't realize, I don't think, that they're messing with that.
Exactly.
A very simple constitutional construction of a way elections to run. And they're coming in with this big ball of iron ball coming in where, well, we're going to do it this way. We have these 5 mayors, and we're backed up by the city council, and we've got this money and all this type of stuff. That's another part that they did not realize that they were doing. They were messing with something very essential and very simple and very, very
And I think the Common Council was probably told, well, this is a grant that we're getting, so we accept grants all the time. So we're just going to sign it away.
We live on grants.
Yeah, darn dear.
If we had to live on taxes, we'd starve. We got to get grants.
All right, I'll go back into it a little bit.
And we haven't got the emails from Racine yet, but it looks like the so-called Wisconsin voter plan, the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan 2020, may have been put together by CTCL, not the mayors. But the point is, when you look at it, it has very little to do with COVID. Everyone was told, oh, Zuckerberg and these people are putting this money in because of COVID. What it really related to was a conditional grant that is, they would give the cities the money, but then they would say, if you didn't do what we wanted, we can take the money back.
I don't think it was done. I think it might underplay COVID a little bit. It wasn't. It was the ruse was that we're making the change because of COVID, but the reality was they were using COVID to get their plan instituted.
Yeah.
That was the excuse for it.
Yeah, I think they had the plan long before COVID ever made it on the
Could have
scene.
been, but
I suspect that.
Yeah.
And then that was a very convenient. We got to do it because of the.
Well, like Jane Fonda says, COVID was a God's gift to the Democrat Party. that was sort of, it helped them get and institute this plan.
We're hot government, so what we're on is open, transparent government. We've got open records requests in the City of Racine, which is stonewalling, and we're seeking the 68,000 emails that met our target of within the records request. So, have you seen many of the emails that?
Yeah, most of the emails I have regarding Racine were ones we got from other cities, which I know you'll be disappointing.
It's a little hard to hear that, but what he was saying, that he's explaining to this lawyer that we already have an open records request in, and that there are 68,000 emails that will be needed to provide in order to fulfill that request. Have I got that
Correct.
right?
No,
That's what he's asking.
Right, and actually, I even asked Eric, do they have a records request? He said, absolutely, they have one in. The Elections and Campaign Committee in the state of Wisconsin has one in. Racine's giving up nothing. They have given up nothing, and that's Harry Waite, and he's part of hot government. Actually, he's the president, I believe, and he's kind of interviewing Eric, and so I caught the camera and I got over there, and it's interesting where he's at. But Harry's explaining to him that hot government had got something saying, it's extensive. You're asking for an extensive amount of emails. We don't care. You can do it electronically. Let's get them. But
yeah, there was. I saw the response to him, and it was like hundreds of thousands of emails, which is
but that's a typical move by especially Racine. Oh, it's so voluminous that we don't have time, and we're important people. We don't have time to talk to you citizens about giving you information that you request.
Well, I think by virtue of the words that he used as the primary words that would stimulate them to submit this because it contains that word, so I want that.
Right.
It was so broad that virtually everything that passed through that office in a year's time would be covered by that request. So I think, who the heck wants to go through that many emails? I mean,
didn't Harry decide? Just send them to me.
Send them to me.
Well,
anyway.
yeah, but I mean, he wouldn't even want to go through them. I'm saying if the search is narrowed down a little bit, I think at least you got a better argument for getting.
I'll tell you what,
I still
give
think Racine is stonewalling.
I give them nothing. I give Racine nothing because they're cheaters and liars. That office of the mayor and the office of the attorney, they're liars and cheaters.
I agree, but at least you got a better argument if you narrow it down.
And you got a lot backing you up with the result of all this Wisconsin vibe,
right.
Jim. What you say about
if you want to be honest and upfront and you say, hey, I got a real issue with it, that's one thing. They circumvent the truth over and over and over again.
Well, and if they were open and honest, wouldn't they say, what exactly are you looking for?
Right. Come on in.
Okay, we can get that for you. But no. Throw up the wall.
No, and we've seen it with Sandy Wider, Machinery Row, like you say, over and over.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
The emails that we got that affect Racine were very important ones in this sequencing. The Racine was really the leader.
The head of the beast.
The head of the beast, Corey Mason, and it was really the leader of this. And so it looks to us like Racine, that Common Council resolution where they received $100,000, I think it was approved on early June, it was June 2nd or June 3rd, I think, that was the critical event that made this happen. So in Racine, the Common Council approved it, but I don't think the Common Council knew it was approved what it was approving. It approved a $100,000 grant, $10,000 to be redistributed to the other Wisconsin 5 cities, and there really wasn't much information in the resolution. And so I don't even know if they knew when they voted for it that Mayor Mason already in line the subcommittee under the Common Council resolution.
Right.
So I think they would have been surprised if, when they passed that resolution, that the mayors of Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, and Green Bay were lined up to form a subcommittee under that resolution.
A subcommittee. All these mayors are a subcommittee
of Racine.
Racine,
of the Racine resolution. So the aldermen voted to do a resolution, but they maybe thought, well, it might be department heads, it might be citizens, it might be, staff. No.
Now, I assume that the resolution was brought before the council through, what do they call it, direct referral?
Probably.
Which means that the mayor brought it in.
Right.
I can't imagine anybody on the council having anything to do with the writing of this resolution at all, or have any knowledge of it before this meeting.
But that subcommittee was 5 mayors in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
5 mayors in the city of Wisconsin was the subcommittee of the resolution that the Common Council voted for and passed. I don't believe they actually knew what they were taught. I think they got snookered.
Yeah, a subcommittee is normally be 5 people.
5 people that are going to talk about this grant that came from CTCL.
Yeah.
This was a setup.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the meeting where this happened, but I suspect that Corey brought it in and says, we've got $100,000 available to us to do the blah, 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 and what we got to do is pass this resolution. And he made it sound like, what would you like with your oatmeal?
Right. Right.
Sugar and cream, or maybe you want some raisins in there.
So what had
Everybody voted
happened
for it.
before that came in on June 2nd to the Common Council, these 5 mayors had already probably met, already knew exactly what was going on, knew they needed a Common Council resolution out of one of these cities, and who did they pick? Racine. So when he talks about the head of the beast or the Racine was it. Now, did they pick Racine because it's the most amiable to doing whatever the mayor says? Probably.
No,
Or
get it
Corey's
through that
just-
council the easiest.
Yeah. Or Corey's thinking,
There's nothing but
I'm going to
bobbleheads
go up
on
the
that kind
ladder.
of count. That's
Yeah.
we can go through.
Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it through this council. They won't even ask a question.
Well, we know he's got connections all over the place.
Right.
You know.
Right. But, so it's interesting, how Racine really set the whole thing up.
And then for you in the city of Racine, you have $60,000 were left over for Racine. Well, you'd want to know what was going on at that committee meeting. That was your money, and they were making decisions at the committee meeting. Now, granted,
$60,000.
Yeah.
What did they do? Did they reupholster the new bus?
Well, they got $100,000 from CTCL, and they're only distributing $10,000 to each of the 4 cities.
Yeah.
Right.
10,000 minus 40,000, 100,000 minus 40,000 is 60,000. Where'd that other 60 grand go? And that's what he's saying.
Yeah, and and again, it's this subcommittee, which are the 5 mayors, so they got a $60,000 kitty to work on it.
Party time.
Yeah,
committee meeting. Now, granted, it was a Racine committee under that resolution. It had the Racine mayor on it, and it's kind of a curious committee because you also have the mayors of Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, and Kenosha on there. But it's your committee. It's Racine's committee, and because it was a committee under that resolution, I feel pretty strongly that that's subject to the open meeting laws. Now, I know the legislative council for the state legislature here said that it doesn't look like it's one, but wait a minute, this Racine resolution, maybe there is an issue, and he's referred the legal question to the Attorney General.
That's cute. Open. It's an open meetings.
open meetings.
Law.
Yeah.
Does that apply to 5 mayors? Oh, those are pretty big shots, right? No,
Yeah,
we're
you
above
would-
that law.
You certainly think it would
That can't apply to us.
So you make a committee, and then you have apparently all these Zoom calls. Corey Mason setting up Zoom calls with the 5 mayors, having these meetings, but they're not given out to the public as, hey, we're having a meeting here. We got the $60,000. We gave each mayor $10,000 to put up a safe voting plan. That was obviously done by CTCL. It wasn't done by the 5 cities.
No.
And so there's just meetings that goes on and talks about how we're going to put this into play, but yet the citizens are cut out of the loop.
Well, and do you see the topsy-turvy nature of it? In other words, we have the mayor and the council and a subcommittee of the council, which is taking us back up to not just our mayor, but 4 other mayors of major cities in Wisconsin as a subcommittee of the council of the city of Racine.
It sure sounds like they're
talking about-
operating as government officials. Doesn't it seem like they're operating as government
Something like
officials?
that, yeah.
That would have to be covered by the open meetings.
Oh,
law.
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I don't think that's any
I mean,
question of it.
they're going to throw smoke screens up as much as they can, but no, there's no doubt it's a violation of open meetings law. There's no question about it. You got a grant, you use the grant, you incorporate a committee, and the committee never has to report back to the citizens. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and that money should go through a budgetary process too, I would think.
That's
some
another.
way,
That's
shape, or
another good
form.
question.
Yeah.
You know, so is there an alderman out there that would question this?
In Racine?
Yeah.
Have we got aldermen now?
Here's my real question: where's the city attorney? Think about it for a second. All this
What are you
went on.
kidding? He's a cover story. He's the guy.
All this went on under the nose of the city attorney.
Yeah.
Open meeting violations, money that's not recorded. Where is this money? And then, of course, all the money that they report back to CTCL with all the money that was given to them to run the election, the millions of dollars. So they're not reporting to the citizens. They're reporting back to this granting agency that had a clawback provision in it to say, well, if you don't do what we say, that we created
want our
this
money
plan.
back, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is they created this environment to say, Corey, take the $100,000, give it to these 4 mayors, create a plan. Wait a sec, you're making it look like they created the plan. But CTCL created the plan.
The plan was already
so all
made
they
up.
did is they threw a smoke screen up to make it look like, well, these mayors created this COVID plan.
They did
All-
a damn good job too, didn't they?
All bullshit. It was all done by CTCL in here. Corey was the front man to make it look like it was done by the 4 or 5 cities. Nothing.
The mayors,
nothing but
the mayors all essentially became a front organization for CTCL. in other
something
words.
like the mob.
And before we get too far, let's realize that they should not be running the elections anyway.
Correct.
That's right.
bingo.
Right back to the beginning of this,
Yeah.
where it's set up: Constitution, state legislator, city clerk, and you have all this other snake oil coming in there.
Well, they circumvented the clerks.
Yeah,
And we'll get into that.
Not only the clerk, but the legislature and the United States Constitution.
That's a really important question for the city of Racine and its residents is can you have committees with that kind of authority making decisions that are delegated by a resolution and not meet publicly. So that's a really important issue that needs to be resolved in Racine among the Common Council members and the citizens there. But then from that, there's this period of like 10 days because the resolution says, all right, we're taking 100,000, we're going to split it with these different cities, and then we're going to put together the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan. But they only had like 12 days to do it.
Yeah, they're not really.
And so the question is, the investigative hypothesis then is, Center for Tech and Civic Life gave 100,000 to Racine through this resolution to distribute to everyone else to put together a Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan in 10 days. And then eventually the conditional grants were presented and approved by the Common Councils. But who drafted the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan? Was it a staff member at Racine? It's pretty clear it wasn't a staff member at Madison, Kenosha, Milwaukee, or Green Bay. So it's either Racine did it or the Center for Tech and Civic Life did it. If the Center for Tech and Civic Life did it, then you've really got a problem because the Center for Tech and Civic Life is doing the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan and paying $100,000 to make it look like they didn't. I mean, what's that all about? I mean, it's just really crazy. So Racine is the linchpin, and there's many questions that need to be answered in the Racine emails, but we don't have them yet.
All right, well, we got a question for you right now. If the person who wrote this resolution is watching the show, stand up and be noticed. You know, stand up and make the claim.
Take some responsibility
Yeah.
for that plan.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to know where it came from.
How'd you do it?
Okay, one of the things that came out of here that we talked about it before. Now we can't really divulge where that information came from, but there are emails from Green Bay. There's emails that have been released in Milwaukee. I don't know about Kenosha and Madison. I know Racine has not released anything. That was a topic that was talked about during the whole presentation. But apparently, this CTCL came in with this plan. They basically overran these clerks, county clerks, or city clerks anyway. The city clerks, the one in Green Bay quit, and that was where all this information came from. She actually asked one of the representatives, she set it up. She said, do an email request, public open records request on my emails to one of the representatives who did it in Green Bay. But she had sent emails back and forth explaining why she was enchanted with this new group that's moved in and how to the city attorney, to the mayor, and those emails basically exposed this whole CTCL. In Racine, though, what's happened is the clerk in Racine was also basically moved out. It was run by the mayor's office. But apparently Tara, because Kenosha had a similar problem with the clerk, I don't know if it was the actual county or the city clerk or their staff that was running it, that apparently the clerk down there said, hey, I don't want nothing to do with this. Went to the staff person quit. They had problems down there. Apparently Tara from Racine was farmed out to Kenosha
To run the election?
to run election.
That was very generous
Wow.
of it.
So I mean,
She
this
wasn't
thing-
running the election here in Racine, which was what her responsibility was, but she could go down to
She's up there,
Kenosha.
down there in Kenosha running theirs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now this is again,
Wow.
it's a reliable source. I believe there's emails and there are some issues that have come up with that now.
Maybe
we
that's
don't
why
have
they
that
don't want to release
documentation.
any.
Yeah, right. I think there's a way more going on here than meets
A
the
few
eye.
things. Jim, I'm wondering about this open record request. What is the penalty for that? If elected official
That's a good question.
violates the open meetings,
Open meetings, it's
and this is 5 mayors.
yeah.
violating
George, it
this
doesn't
law.
come to any kind of real. They've set themselves up. It's maybe $300 a mayor, a violation. I mean, it's not
okay, I appreciate that.
Would they take
But-
that
but
out of the
I-
$100,000?
probably.
I would
60
still like to.
$60.
I would still like to see the fine, just as if
Yeah.
a mayor was caught speeding. He should go ahead and pay that fine. Now a lot of them object to that. No, I don't want. I'm the mayor. I don't get arrested for speeding by my
Mm-hmm.
own police. But he should.
Well-
I would at least like, even if it's only $300. I'd
Yeah,
like that.
but
I
I'll
would like
tell
to see
you,
him
when
do it.
Harry speaks on the end here, I know we're running along here, but he talks about, we'll push for criminal charges because, talking about a federal election here. You circumvented a federal election. You're not talking about local.
Well, that's more than the open meetings thing.
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
just violation of this 3-step
Right.
process. Yes.
Right.
No, that's very serious and it's very clear. It's very simple. This is not some little esoteric
Right.
thing that you really got to
That's
dig
why I
deep.
think those emails are not being released because I think there's a lot that's going on in the city of Racine with the activity that happened throughout the state.
That could be. That could
know.
be. They know that what this guy's saying is the truth, and they knew it before we knew it.
Exactly.
Well, let's get back.
We know the head of the beast is Corey Mason in this whole election scam. I'm going to call it scam. The city of Racine actually manufactured and created a poll worker crisis by taking applications and not acting on them. And during previous to the elections, they were complaining that there was a poll worker shortage. Nobody wanted to come up and actually volunteer. We have emails that confirm that the city of Racine sat on all the poll worker applications. If they were undesirable, politically undesirable to the administration of the city of Racine, the people were not called upon to act. Therefore, they created and manufactured this poll worker shortage. We believe that the city of Racine impeded and manipulated and thwarted honest, open, and transparent elections. We think it's not only illegal, we think it's criminal.
Good. I don't know much about that, but I do know if you allow government officials to violate the law in one place, they're more likely to become serial violators of the law. So you have to have a zero tolerance with respect to election law violations. Otherwise, they just go off.
Oh,
point.
is that to the truth? That's the thing where they say, well, there was some fraud, but it wasn't enough to overturn the election. I don't care. They should still be prosecuted for fraud because otherwise it becomes a habit, and then
Right.
when you really need to do a lot of it, you
Well,
get
you
locked down.
lose confidence in the
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
and that turns into a real problem.
This whole concept, well, it wasn't enough to overturn the election, a bunch of BS. If you find some election fraud prosecution, you prosecute it.
Well, if Blagojevich would have got a spanking for that first candy bar he stole down in
That's
Illinois,
right. He might have
He
never
might
gone
not
for
be in
president. That's right. He might have rescued his whole political life.
Well, one of
That's an
the
excellent
interesting
point.
things Harry brought up was, he brought up the poll worker shortage, which we brought up on the show and said,
manufactured.
yeah, manufactured.
Totally manufactured.
Again, now, obviously, they're not digging into that part of it, but, obviously, we did, and that was bogus. But this is way beyond that. Now we really see that the CTCL created the safe voting plan. They distributed the money. They created a subcommittee with the Racine resolution. I mean, this thing is way over the top, and they circumvented the city clerks to overtake that election.
That is, and there's amazing little chart that we saw out there where it showed that. Yeah, you have step 1, Constitution; step 2, the state legislator; step 3, the city clerk. And in this middle here, between the legislator and the city clerk, is this U-turn thing where things just get messed up in there, and that whole thing was perverted so that CTCL was actually running it and not the clerks.
Well, I want to render my personal opinion about all this for just a moment. I think, this is bad enough, but I think this is pervasive throughout government. Not just the election process, but the way legislation is written, the way it's passed, the way it's stonewalled.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mess, an absolute mess. And it's going to take the efforts of a lot of voters, a lot of concentration, a lot of paying attention to what the heck is going on with the people that you elect to represent you.
Amen.
Well, it's that, and we need to get a good system so that if we decide we want to get someone into office, that person gets into office and not somebody else. Because
Or at least gets a fair opportunity.
But I'm saying, yeah, if the voters decide they want a particular person in there, that's the person that should be in there, not somebody else that people that are fiddling with the election process put in there instead. That's also important. You're absolutely right when you say, Doc. We've got to start getting better elected officials. We got too many people that are chosen because they're nice people and they're easy to deal with, and I'm comfortable with them. They might be absolutely terrible legislators, bobbleheads, and they just follow what the mayor says.
Well, they're party people. You're in a Democratic Party, the Republican Party. You're moving up this ratcheting up the. I mean, that's how it works, and that's not the way it should work. That's not the way.
Even these party designations are bogus anymore. Exactly. I mean, everybody who wants to get elected in Racine, you better run as a Democrat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Regardless of what your politics are, you better be a Democrat.
Well, I'll tell you what, people got to wake up and they got to start really looking at it, because you know what? It affects you, and it's going to affect you more and more in the future if you don't start to really engage yourself in your local politics and understand what your duty is as a citizen.
I think we're seeing that somewhat on a national basis, but back down to what we're talking about, talking Racine, there's something going on here, and I think we need to look at it and just see the obvious thing. We have lost people from this city every year since 1970. Every single year without failure. There's something going on that's wrong. We need to look at that and start taking some actions that's going to reverse that trend, because we have a lot of land here, we have a lot of buildings here, we have a lot of opportunity here, and I think we're not seeing and not looking at the cause of our demise rather than getting in recreating this great city.
Well, it was very prosperous and great city at one time, and I think it's been getting plundered. Absolutely plundered.
Yeah.
And who was it that said all politics is local? I guess it doesn't matter. It's a great quote.
It is a great quote. I agree, totally. That's why we're here.
Yeah. One last thing. Did you know that they've renamed UFOs?
Okay, we already called out.
Oh, here we go.
Now they're unidentified airborne phenomenon. And with that, we're going to get the heck out of here. We hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day. Be sure to give thanks for all the people for whom this day is set aside in memory of. And we'll see you next week.